All right, today's July 31st. We are with the Humanities Truck at New York Presbyterian Avenue Church, and we're doing an interview related to homelessness in D.C. Do I have permission to record this interview?
Yes, you do.
And could you tell me your name?
My name is Patrick Hill.
And tell me what you want to talk about today.
I want to talk about the 7,332 vouchers that's needed for the housing in the District of Columbia. I also want to talk about the 3 different databases that they have in housing for the last 14 years, whereas it was low-income areas and there was not affordable housing in those areas, and how these developers have new developments without affordable housing, which is something that the city truly needs to take care of the people who are taxpaying citizens who are now homeless. And I think it's a responsibility of the council, the mayor, and every other developer in the city to make their housing affordable for the homeless. And through Section 3, 1968, Lyndon B. Johnson made the Affordable Housing Act itself since 1968, and these was low-income areas. And these low-income areas were supposed to have affordable housing, and that's why every developer had a tax break. So therefore, if the developers didn't make their developments affordable housing, how can they have a permit? And how can we stop what it is in our city and make things better for all, which is very important to create jobs and to make sure that the future of the District of Columbia, that we can end poverty and homelessness in the district and throughout the nation. We have 150 million people that's in poverty right now. I just marched with Dr. William Barber through the Poor People's Campaign, and the Poor People's Moral Budget is 100% correct. We need to change what's in America immediately, right now, for all. There's 5 million that's homeless in New York City. There's 7,332 that's homeless in the district. In San Francisco, they also have homeless. Our homelessness is becoming an epidemic. It needs to stop immediately. We need to immediately draft laws and proposals to the Supreme Court to end homelessness and poverty. America itself has 330 million Americans, 47 million black, 100 million 53 million Latinos. What we need to do is have accountability, and we need to end homelessness throughout our nation. The world food population, they have over 1.4 billion tons of food that goes to waste every day. 1/3 of the world's production. It needs to change. We need to get in contact with certain individuals who own certain businesses and make sure that we're holding them also accountable to help what it is, the homeless situation. And we need to change how we're doing business in America, because if not, we're going to have 200 to 250 million people that's homeless, and that would be almost 3/4 of our population within itself. There's only 330 million Americans. Too much is given, much is required. We're asking those billionaires and those millionaires to rethink their G20 and all the other things that they do on to better help the homeless and the poor. And we really, truly need that done immediately. We need to organize, strategize on how we're going to come up with better things for the people that's homeless in every city. Every person that may be on medication needs a tent describing what type of medication they're on and what it may be. It's called housing, not handcuffs. Something very important. I just marched with the National Coalition for Homeless, one of my old groups I set up for when I worked on Capitol Hill. I dealt with every major organization and corporation in the United States and throughout the world. We really need to take a look at our homeless situation, because it's producing something that has never been ever seen before. In order to change it, we have to organize and mobilize and get the right people involved. We're asking those billionaires to please change what it is and not to be so greedy in reference to their developments. All they have to do is change what it is in the law to make Section 3 affordable for everyone, so everyone can be peaceful, positive, productive, calm, cool, and collective. Remember, God is love. Very important. This is the future for our kids and the future vision that we have for other kids. We don't want this world to go to a negative thing in treating homeless people wrong. That needs to change, because every homeless person is somebody's son, daughter, or child. So we need to think about what's being done now. If we treat other people like this, and this continues to happen, it'll be worse later. So let's make a good effort all around the world to end our homelessness and poverty, especially in the nation's capital. It's something that needs to change immediately. So we're gonna ask those developers to come back to the table and reassociate, have 20% of any development for affordable housing, and to produce the 7,332 vouchers that's needed in the District of Columbia, and to also put 350 to 400 million in housing trusts. Very important. So our kids and the future of our kids and the future of other individuals can have a fair chance and a fair shot at housing, something that's truly needed throughout the nation. Through Section 3 under Ben Carson, that needs to be into the law. They need to rethink what it is. They had Co-op City, they had housing trusts in the 70s, and that needs to be revisited once again. We need to build America and make America great, and by doing that, give dignity and respect to the homeless and the people who are tax-paying citizens. 10.5 million Americans was put out of their homes systematically through predatory lending and to balloon mortgage payments. That needs to change. We need to put $8.2 trillion that was taken away from certain people in different cities that need to be put back into the system. And our social services, our SNAP and our TANF program, that $2 trillion needs to be put back into the system immediately, so we can have everybody with a fair chance to raise their children, send them to school, have a college education, and be, a good citizen in America.
Excellent. You just provided a fantastic analysis of homelessness and what needs to be done. I was wondering if you might be able to tell me a little bit about your story, how you became a housing activist.
Well, actually, I met Mitch Snyder back in the early 80s, before he even had the Second and D, the homeless program that he runs. I dealt with a lot of activism that I used to set up for back in 1990 on Capitol Hill. The National Coalition for Homeless was also one of my groups that I set up for 20 years when I worked on Capitol Hill. So I met a lot of activism people from all around the world, actually, that converged on a symposium that was held. And what I received was other information in reference to how to help the homeless. The Poor People's Campaign, Tent Cities, something that Dr. William Barber, who worked with the NAACP since he was 15, who has just picked up the new thing to helping the homeless, which is the Poor People's Campaign and Moral Budget, which is absolutely correct what needs to be done in America today to help 150 million people that's in poverty.
So you met Mitch Snyder in 1990?
Yes.
And had you been in, you can't be old enough to have been involved in the Poor People's.
Well, actually.
Are you talking about not like
the
Resurrection City,
the new one. Yeah,
right.
Tent City that Martin Luther King had, the Poor People's Campaign is under Martin Luther King, Philip A. Randolph, and the black activist is called the Super 8, actually. That you had the Reverend Abernathy and other individuals that came and got together and formed a coalition to help the people for jobs, to help the people for housing, and to march into Washington, D.C., which Martin Luther King received the Nobel Peace Prize through Switzerland, for him to get a check for $72,000 to help people with jobs and create jobs, and also to create housing in different states. So that needs to be revisited immediately right now by important activists and pastors all together. I just marched with Dr. William Barber on June the 22nd with 700 individuals, 200 pastors, about 150 activists, and other individuals that came from all over the world that wanted to march directly in unison, nonviolent, to the White House. And they had a rally that was held to help what it is, the homeless situation throughout the nation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any last words you want to leave us with?
Yes, to much is given, much is required. God calls for other individuals to show love and give love. Very important for his people to be peaceful, positive, and productive, and to also show that they care. Those who really have the opportunity and the chance to help another individual, please do that, because that's very important. God is love.